On Astros, the Houston Astros drum the Oakland Athletics. Framber Valdez sets a major league record for consecutive starts, and Yordan Alvarez misses 2 home runs by less than 4 feet. Martin Maldonado went off today, and it was a beautiful game to watch. Eric and I are back together, and we're going to talk about this in the upcoming Rays series, the piggybacking Hunter Brown, Luis Garcia, and wow, what a beautiful problem we have in Houston. We have too many really good pitchers, especially the Frambinator himself, Framber Valdez. Let's talk about it today.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram. They can find me on Facebook at H-Town Wheelhouse, also on TikTok now. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
All right, there's so much for us to discuss. Justin Verlander made his return. He looked great. You have Yordan Alvarez crushing the ball. And Friday, he had a game of his career. Wait, no, he didn't. I mean, he's already done this before. It's basically a duplicate of something he's already done. Then you have Martin Maldonado having a game. And then Jose Urquidy, he struggled. Does that mean he doesn't deserve to be in the Astros rotation in playoffs? There's so much for us to discuss on this episode. And guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, make sure you keep on subscribing to us. Make sure you make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go and check us out. So Framber Valdez is now sitting alone for a single season high, 25 consecutive quality starts. And he is now falling behind Jacob deGrom and Bob Gibson for the only guys who have done it in over 2 seasons for 26 consecutive starts. So they're going to be chasing those two guys. But most recently, it's Jacob deGrom, of course. And so this is something that Framber Valdez is definitely chasing after. I know Dusty Baker was trying not to make a big deal about it and not to stress him out, but actually he said that he was kind of using it as kind of a carrot to kind of get Framber to be a little bit more focused. And I know that Framber has been working with a Dr. Andy Nunes. He is a sports psychiatrist. And he's somebody that's been kind of working with him even before every start to kind of get him focused. And in the first 5 innings of today's game, he was totally focused. But all it took was, it wasn't even Alvarez's misplayed ball in left field. It was the call that Framber Valdez thought should have been a strike. But after that, he gave up the double that scored the 2 runs. But he ended up calming down. Why? Because Alex Bregman, he understood the assignment. He basically got 3 outs in an inning by himself. That one ball should have gone through, but he went out there, as Dusty Baker said, he looks like Brooks Robinson out there, and he just looked great.
You know, that's high praise because Brooks Robinson's one of the best third basemen of all time. The only third baseman I saw that even held a candle to Brooks Robinson was Ken Caminiti. And I know you remember Ken Caminiti because of the Jeff Bagwell era. That's really kind of how you came into baseball. And for me growing up, Ken Caminiti was that guy that like you wanted to be. I remember seeing him throw a guy out from third base from his knees at first base across the field. An absolute amazing arm, an amazing athlete, a tragic story to an otherwise he should have been an illustrious career. But we've got Alex Bregman, and Alex Bregman is one of the best fielding third basemen, Eric, in the league. His concentration, his focus, his ability to make throws off balance, his ability to get that plant foot, whether it's the right one or the wrong one, and still get the ball there. And then coupled, you can't miss also Yuli's ability to scoop a baseball. Yuli Gurriel has saved so many near outs. I think most first basemen in his position, outside of Yuli Gurriel, there would have been a lot of guys that have been safe at first, and a lot of these games could have gone differently, And it was great. We were there, and it was an intense pitcher's duel at first. The Oakland A's are rolling out all these guys. Literally, one of them looks like one of my seventh graders. I mean, he looks like he's 13,
Is that
and
Wiles?
no, Allen. Allen
Oh,
looks
okay.
like Noah Allen looks like he's 13 years old. I'm like, I'm sure. Are you sure that's not like the Bat Boy? Because, anyways, they got all these young guys, and they're not even all their top prospects outside of Langoliers. But the Oakland A's went out there. This pitcher does have a high upside. He had some nasty stuff. But the Astros, it literally took that one inning, and we'll get to that. But it was a great thing to see this game today, and Framber settle in. I mean, he had a no hitter going through four, and even a perfect game. But you know, nonetheless, Framber Valdez didn't get the perfect game or the no hitter, but he got a huge standing ovation. I was there. It was massive. He tipped his cap to the crowd. They recognized him on the big board, and it was really, really cool once he finalized that quality start. 25 in a row, Eric. Dark horse Cy Young candidate for sure.
Yeah, and definitely, I think that Dusty Baker made the right decision there. At that moment, you had to go ahead and take Framber Valdez out, especially after all the struggles in the sixth inning. Why risk when he has a chance of doing something as historic as this is? Yes, he wants to go out there. He probably was upset as not being able to go out there and pitch that seventh inning. But Dusty Baker was like, "Dude, you're at 87 pitches. You've already got you're qualified for the quality start. You've already got the record. You don't need to push it. You've already been pitching over 100 pitches for the last 3 or 4 starts. You don't need this. We need you for October. You got the record. You got this." And like you said, the fans gave him a standing ovation, and it was great for this. And so, 87 pitches. They had a 7-2 lead at that point. So I think that Dusty Baker made the right call.
Yeah, I mean, there is absolutely no need. September 18th, this late in the season, when you have a stranglehold you have your playoff spot nailed down. You basically are going to have your division clinched within the next day or two.
Right.
So there's really no point. And now you go into this chess match in this piggyback system, and we'll get to that probably in the last segment. Hunter Brown moved for the bullpen. Luis Garcia. And see, here's the thing. Someone's like, well, why don't they put Hunter first and then the other guy second? And I'll explain why they do that, because of Hunter Brown's experience. But the bottom line is this, Eric. This team with Framber Valdez, this team with Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker. I mean, this team, and when you get guys like Maldonado, and when you get guys like Gurriel hitting, like, there is not a single team I see that you can say they would definitely beat the Astros. The Astros match up well against every team, and I'm not saying it's a lock, but I'm just saying I'm feeling more and more confident as the days go on, especially this late in the season.
Yeah, and James Click had something to say about the rotation, and they're already starting to look at the playoff rotation at this point of the season because they do have a big lead in the sorry, somebody's trying to call me. So basically, they have a big lead, and it's like, what are you going to do in this situation? And so I just think that the Astros are trying to do what's best. You can't go with the 7-man rotation. And the last week, you have 2 off days, then you have a week off before the playoffs start because they're not playing in the wild card game. They have the bye, so that's something that you have to look forward to. So let's go ahead and talk about in a little bit. We got to talk some betting odds, like what's going on
Yeah.
with the playoffs, who makes the playoff rotation, all that. So let's talk about BetOnline.
Yeah, so BetOnline is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. I was watching the A&M and Miami Hurricanes game, and I have to admit, I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. I have been my entire life. And I just think that it is so important for us to know that college football is here, pro football is here. And the Texans, yeah, they lost today, but what a game. I mean, you could have bet the over-under on Davis Mills and how many touchdowns he did or didn't get, And if you bet the right way, you probably went to betonline.net. Betonline.net is also your continued source for sports wagering information, live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn about the trends in action. BetOnline. Whether the Astros are playing, Davis Mills is taking a snap, or Jalen Green's ready to get a dunk, it's where the game starts.
Alrighty. So when you're trying to watch the Astros playoffs, you can't afford those tickets. I know if you go to Simple Seats, you could probably get the seats for cheaper. But even if you can't afford to go, why don't you go to Hooters? Hooters is a great place to just watch the game, enjoy the crowd. Everybody's going to be there watching the playoffs. And they have the world famous Hooter girls there. They have great wings, great brew, and Brett likes the honey chipotle wings and fries. I used to like the teriyaki, but now I like the 3 Mile Islands. It's just a great place to just go and watch the games. When the game's on, they go ahead and turn the music off, and they go ahead and just have everything. Have the sound on so you can hear it all over the whole restaurant. And it's just a great place to hear the game because they like the Astros just as much as you love the wings. So come hang out where the Locked On Astros guys hang out and enjoy happy owl specials, or so should we say happy owl specials, starting Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. So many drink specials. Don't forget about Thursday specials with so they have drink specials at that time. So go hang out over there and tell them Locked On Astros sent you by, and they'll give you a free basket of fried pickles. And they are located on I-45 South, exit FM 528 for great wings and the best service from the world famous Hooter girls. And make sure you tell them that the Locked On Astros guys sent you by. Alrighty, so I know that we got the playoffs coming up, and we do need to address the rotation a little bit. I know that Jose Urquidy didn't look great on for Saturday, but Dusty Baker kind of addressed that. But before we get to Urquidy, we got to talk about Justin Verlander.
Oh,
Dude
yeah.
missed 18 days, and he came back and looked like he didn't miss any days. He pitched 5 innings, no hit baseball. The one thing that kind of jumped out to me was in between innings, he was pacing in the dugout just because he was trying to keep the calf loose. And so that's something that I think that was more of a mental thing for him. He was just worried about it tightening up or something like that because he was so worried about it before the game. So for him to go out there and pitch 5 innings, that was great. And I know that the benchmark was 85 pitches. So I think that's where he was being taken out anyway. So I think that nobody argued when it was time to come out. They don't care if it's no hitter. They don't care about a no hitter in September. At this point, they're just trying to get him ready, get him qualified for an ERA title so he can, so it looks better for the Cy Young race. But overall, I think that was a big step for the Astros getting ready to be ready for October. But overall, he looked great. He looked dominant.
Eric, and I did a crossover with Sully on Locked On MLB, and I know you heard that and saw that, and we talked about how the Astros are the king of pitching, and how these Houston Astros, Eric, have accomplished an amazing feat this year, and I wanted to mention it because Ephus Tosser on Twitter shared it, and I told him I'd give him credit because I think this goes into not just Justin Verlander, but the pitching overall. Is the 110 of the Houston Astros 147 games have been started by pitchers originally drafted or signed by the Astros. Justin Verlander's not one of those. So outside of Justin Verlander, all these other guys, they're all homegrown. Justin Verlander is the only guy that we've really brought in that hasn't been a part of this staff. And that says a lot about the Houston Astros organization, where you look at the Yankees and they spend all that money on Cole. You look at all these other teams, Montas, who's having issues in New York. Robbie Ray's had an up and down year. All these teams that try to bring in other pitchers, whenever the Dodgers brought in Max Scherzer. we brought in Justin Verlander. He stayed and he's still here and he continues to improve. His season this year, Eric, is better than his 2011 MVP season. It's mind blowing and mind boggling to know that we have him and Framber Valdez, and you're going to put Framber Valdez maybe as your number two when
Mhm.
he's really an ace. And then you have Christian Javier, who is crushing it and lighting things up. And then you got this kid coming out of nowhere, Hunter Brown, that a lot of people don't know about outside of Houston. You've got Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy. I mean, Lance McCullers Jr., who has come back to, dude, Lance McCullers Jr., like having Verlander come back and then having McCullers doing what he's doing. I just, Paul Francis Sullivan said the Astros have the best pitching staff in baseball, and it's not even close. They are the best team in the American League, and it's not even close. He said the only team I see really matching with them is the Dodgers, and he said I think they line up well with the Dodgers. And Justin Verlander is a huge part of that. And I trust him. I trust the process. I trust that he's going to take care of his body and that calf because he, more than anybody, Eric, on the staff, wants to be there in the playoffs. And he, you know what he also wants that he doesn't have? He wants a World Series win. He wants a game. He wants a game where he gets the W in the win column. Not just the team, but he wants an individual win. And I think he's more motivated than ever to get that.
Yeah, so his strikeouts on Friday brought him to a total of 3,176, which leapfrogged him past Max Scherzer for now for 13th all time. He said, my stuff was pretty good. I can tell there's a little rust, but that's to be expected. He pitched great, but he was a little rusty, quote, quote. It was probably less than I anticipated, so it was all in all a good day. And he said, being off for 18 days, we had a ballpark of about 85-ish pitches. Everyone was at the same opinion, but it was just wise to pull me at that point, especially where we are at the season. Just get ready for this next one. So, but basically, you're looking at what he's done, kind of like what you said, but the staff overall, they lead the American League in ERA and opponents' average whip. I mean, average and whip. So it's just great. And for them to be doing what they're doing with the hitters not hitting, now they're starting to hit a little bit. Watch out, this team could be dangerous. And it's what's scary is that the fact that they are on a better pace than the 2019 Astros that won 107 games. So the 2019 Astros, they went on a big winning streak at the end. So who knows? They could win 105, 106, 107 games if they keep this up.
And remember, you and I have gone back and forth. You know, I think I can't remember which one of us was 97 wins, 95 wins.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people were like maybe 92. You know, like we didn't know.
Right.
And the way they've dominated, and it really begins and ends with the pitching. Also, the mad tear that Yordan went on, he had a slump. And Eric, is there a hitter that is more dialed in than Yordan Alvarez? The two doubles he hit today were absolutely blistered. And I mean, even Mancini, even in his outs, the Astros, every one of their hits were solid, were lasers. And there were a couple of them. I'm surprised the Oakland A's outfielders caught them because how hard they were hit. We were sitting down the first baseline. And so we got some good like shots, you know, field level shots of those baseballs going out there. I'm like, there's no way they're going to catch it. Okay, he caught it. Like he's a good young athlete, you know. But I'm astounded. Every time Yordan steps into the box, I'm like, why don't you just walk the guy? Like, why do you even pitch to him? It is absurd. Even with bases loaded, just get him on base. Get him on base. That's one run versus a bases clearing double. That is clutch. And that's why Yordan is better than even someone like an Aaron Judge who is chasing 62 home runs because Yordan Alvarez can do it in the key moments and the clutch moments, and he doesn't just hit home runs. You know, to Aaron Judge's credit, he is 1 or 2 points away from getting a triple crown, and I get that. But what I'm saying is
It's 58 home runs.
He has a lot of home runs. I think there might be a juice ball involved, but, you know, I digress. But I'm just saying Yordan Alvarez hits all parts of the field, okay?
Hey, yeah, I agree. But Friday's game was just one of those games that it was like it's like a dream. It was just a dream. It was like you have Pena and then Alvarez hitting back to back home runs. And I was there with my girlfriend. We are doing, I was helping her with schoolwork. And I, I was like, I thought this was just a replay of Pena's home run, but it was just like, boom. I was like, whoa, what just happened there? And it just was so majestic, and it's just like, wow, this guy makes it look so easy. And this was comes after Wednesday when there's that whole controversy. Well, Alvarez is sitting because his hands are still sore, and then Alvarez came out and said, no, I don't know what they're talking about. My hands are not sore. And so this was a statement game from Alvarez to say, I'm okay. I'm okay, Skip. You don't have to sit me.
We we talked about that on Spaces, and, and there was, let me say, there were several phrases that were used. Like, this was a blankety blank statement game. This was a Yordan Alvarez saying, okay, watch me. Like,
Yeah,
let me just show you what I can do. And every one of his home runs were over 430 feet.
right.
The first time since Nelson Cruz,
Right.
right? Like
On
2019.
September 25th of 2019. And then it was just amazing that happened. And even he went 4 for 4, and even the single was 109.3 miles per hour off the bat. So he was locked in that day. And even Dusty Baker said Jordan was unbelievable. The balls he hit had a lot of mileage to them. We needed it. Thank you, Dusty. Thank you for
Well,
saying, giving him
and
motivation.
And so Justin Verlander said something in the dugout, and I still haven't had anybody confirm to me what he was saying. Someone was like, "Oh, he was saying, yeah, just think Garrett Cole, didn't want to play here anymore." He didn't say that, but they asked him what he said in the dugout. He's like, "I'll just leave that between myself and my teammates." But hey, I think we got another bobblehead coming next year. I think we've got a Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez back-to-back bobblehead. Got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah,
And I think that is definitely in line. I mean, if Foco is making a bobblehead with like Lance McCullers and three dogs in spacesuits, you got to have a Jeremy
that's
Pena and Yordan
$100.
Alvarez
That's
back to back.
crazy.
Well, but yeah, I get it. I'm just saying we need a Pena Alvarez bobblehead next year back to back for sure to
I
add
love
to
the
our collection.
Yeah, I love the comment I saw on Twitter. Somebody put like, when you replace the character the next season, you have a picture of Bregman and Alvarez doing it back to back, and then you have
Right.
Pena and Alvarez doing it back to back. So that was
It's
great.
like,
But
yeah, it was like the movie was recast or
yeah,
remade
yeah.
with new characters. Yeah.
Yeah, so in August, this dude hit 234, 326, 312 with one home run and 10 RBIs, 23 games. And now he's just on fire. It's just like crazy just how good he can be. He can carry the team. And I think as Alvarez goes, the Astros will go. He can literally carry this team all the way through the World Series. So yes, the bottom of the Astros lineup may be a little weak. You can't expect 4 for 4 from Martin Maldonado, who had a home run today, 3-run homer. So that was great. But you can't expect the bottom lineup to produce every day, especially in the playoffs. But if you have somebody like Alvarez, then the rest of the guys, Bregman and Altuve, and then Jeremy Pena, he even hit a slider for a home run the other day. And it's just like when Yuli's even starting to hit. So when these guys are all hitting, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. This Astros lineup can
Well,
be great.
okay. The Dodgers lineup has holes in it, guys. Max Muncy's only hitting 201. Okay. Cody Bellinger, 199. Austin Barnes, 214. Chris Taylor, 225. Okay. They got four big blanks in there. 254 is Trace Thompson. Okay. Look, I'm sorry. The Dodgers have Betts, Turner, Freeman. Okay. Oh, they've got Betts, Trey Turner, and Justin Turner and Freeman. That's all they have. I'm just saying, like, the Dodgers may have more wins, but okay, that's great. They have more wins, but they have holes in their lineup too. You know what they don't have? They don't have four aces. You know what they don't have? A bullpen like this team. You know what they don't have? They don't have a team that can show up and show out the way the Astros can. I just look. I get it. I'm not dismissing the Dodgers, but I'm also not going to say that the Astros, oh, well, they have this weak bottom 3 or 4 and they can't compete. That's complete BS, period.
Right. So Astros GM James Click said that on the starting rotation going forward, it's a tricky challenge with those 2 off days on Monday and Thursday of the last homestand. We're already starting to having conversations about what our roster would look like in a playoff series and what our rotation would look like in a playoff series. What can we do over the last few weeks of the season to answer questions that we might have about guys in different roles, coming in different situations, having do things that we would ask of them? We may mix it up a little bit. And part of the reason for that is just getting the players comfortable about the coaching staff and the front office comfortable that these things are the things we can do. Having a 5-day break between the end of the season and the start of the playoff series, even if we're in a 5-day rotation, someone's going to be on 10 days or more rest between their last appearance and the start of the playoffs. It's going to create some unique challenges. So that's why you see Hunter Brown going to the bullpen. That's why you could potentially see Luis Garcia go to the bullpen at some point as a piggyback, because you've got to keep these guys on regular rest. And you're not going to touch Verlander. You're not going to touch Valdez. You're probably not going to touch McCullers. And I'm sorry to say, I know he's pitched really bad the last 2 games. But I think if you look at the large sample size of Jose Urquidy, and Dusty Baker even kind of echoed this, he said, I'm not going to look at the last 2 starts. I'm going to look at the numbers as a whole when we're looking at the playoff rotation. And I
Yeah.
think Jose Urquidy is still the guy that's going to get that 4th spot in the rotation. Look at what he's done in the past. He has 3 World Series wins. And I just think that he's somebody that you're going to look at.
I do think, though, that if he has a couple more shaky starts, that Urquidy does not deserve to be the starter. I don't care what he did in the 2020 or 2021 postseason. I'm just saying, Eric, or 2019 or whenever it was. If right now, recency bias, I see that. I don't know how you got that. Oh, you went to the game. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thanks for bragging. So Jose Urquidy, if he earns his spot, he gets it, right? But if he's not pitching well 2 or 3 starts in a row, to me it's complete madness to start him over Christian Javier, period, in the story. The reason why I like Hunter Brown as a piggyback starter, what I mentioned in the first segment, is because he's done it. I've seen him do it multiple times in person, coming in the 4th or 5th inning, and he lights it up. He acts like a starter when he does that. You don't put Luis Garcia in this situation because he hasn't done that in a
Right.
while, and he didn't have much time in the minors. So you got to realize that this guy came from high A ball all the way to the majors. And so Garcia didn't spend much time in the minors. They maximized Brown. They used him in different situations for this very reason. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. You're right, and Dusty is right, that it is going to be kind of like what happens in that last week. Who's not pitched, who has pitched, is going to, I guess, that 3rd or 4th person. But I still think right now your number 1 guy is Verlander. Your number 2 guy is Valdez. Your number 3 guy is going to be Lance McCullers. As long as Lance McCullers continues to impress, continues to be dominant, continues to pitch the way he's pitching, those are your 3 locks. And then your 4th, hopefully in that ALDS, maybe you don't need that 4th pitcher. Maybe you sweep the team you're playing in a 3-0 and you move on. And then, but that's where I think, Eric, in that first series, I think you can leave Luis Garcia off
Right.
and bring him on the ALCS and World Series, because then you save him. He's a fresh arm and you go from there.
Yeah, and Urquidy says, I'm leaving my pitches down the middle. I was throwing my off-speed pitches very flat, and the hitters have been taking advantage of it. The changeup has been a little too fast and straight, too. So, kind of go off what you're saying, Dusty Baker laid out the criteria last week when he stated that he'll look at the whole body of the week of work rather than just a number. So it's not just what have you done for me lately? It's going to be over the whole year. And that's why Hunter Brown was probably never going to get a look at the rotation for the playoffs. they no matter how good Hunter Brown was going to do, he's probably didn't deserve to. He, according to Dusty Baker, he was probably not going to get the start in the playoffs unless a lot of people got hurt. So
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think Brown is going to be a starter at all. I just don't. I don't think you put him in that position unless you have to have him because of an injury, and we don't want that to happen. I think Brown slots in perfectly in the bullpen because his stuff is electric, his pitches move,
right,
and here's the other key. Nobody has seen him that they're going to face in the playoffs. Nobody will have
sure,
seen him. If they would have, maybe once. So you can watch film on a guy, but until you faced him, and if you put him in late innings, now batters are having to adjust. Now hitters are having to adjust. Now their game plan changes. And then all you have to do is go one time through the order. If he does that efficiently, then you can bring your relievers in. Boom, you only get to see him once. You don't get to see how he adjusts. And that actually is kind of a secret weapon for the Astros.
yeah. And so going back to we are talking about Alvarez earlier. I did not know that he was the first person in Astros history to hit 3 home runs off the same pitcher in the same game. So that was impressive. And he's also he's joined a list of 15 people to hit 3 home runs in a game. The last person to do it was George Springer on September 22nd, 2019 versus the Angels. And he's also he's the third player in Astros history to have 3 multiple home run games. Glenn Davis did it 2 times, and Jeff Bagwell did it 3 times. I specifically remember 2 of the times Jeff Bagwell did it because that's impressive to have 3 home runs in a game. That doesn't happen that
And
often
and they weren't like baby home runs. It wasn't like, oh, that one squeaked over. They
over the
were
Crawford boxes. Yeah.
they were freaking lasers. You know what would have been really fun, and I thought about this, Eric, because I grew up watching games in the Astrodome. I know a lot of our fans have. I would love, I would love to see Yordan Alvarez hit a ball into the mezzanine or upper deck of the Astrodome because he absolutely could do it. I just think that would be so amazing. And I really hope in the playoffs, Eric, if we end up playing a Seattle or someone like that, I really hope he takes the ball upper tank. If we play the Blue Jays, I hope he hits that upper deck ring of the Rogers Center. It's going to be magnificent.
I think the Astrodome would have limited power. That was the whole thing. Was it kind of limited power? So I don't know if it still would have limited his power, or maybe it was a different
Well,
game back then.
it didn't. I mean, it didn't limit Jimmy Win the Toy Cannon. It didn't limit Mark McGuire. It didn't limit, and of course, Mark McGuire is on steroids. I digress. But
Yeah,
no, Yordan Alvarez, Eric, the way that ball jumps off
yeah,
his
I know.
bat, that baseball would not have held. Would not have that park would not have held the baseball in very well. It would have
Okay.
definitely dented the back, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so let's move on to this
Yeah.
next series. This is definitely going to be a playoff matchup, something that I know you don't have Justin Verlander and you don't have Framber Valdez going against the Rays, but you're going to Tropicana Field. This is some place that where the Astros have historically not played well. They even played bad against the Rangers when we had to go play that home game over there. Remember that? So it's just a place where the Astros don't really play well. But game 1 is going to be Luis Garcia making his first start in a one trip through the rotation, I believe. Then versus Drew Rasmussen, who's having great season, 10-5
Yeah.
with 2.77 ERA. Then you're going to have game 2, which is going to be the marquee matchup. It's going to be Christian Javier with the
Mm.
2.87 ERA. Then you have Shane McClanahan with a 2.13 ERA. I hope that the Astros do Justin Verlander and Framber Valdez a solid here and just go ahead and hit him around, go and add 8 runs to his ERA
Yeah, we need to
and
we need to
up
knock
his
McClanahan.
up his
Well,
batting average. Yeah.
with him being out too, with him have been out kind of like Justin Verlander was, I think that kind of hurt him a little bit. But you know what's interesting is if Jose Urquidy had a solid start, this past start, he would have gotten his 14th win, and the Astros would have been the only team with 3 pitchers to have 14 wins on the season, and that would have been really, really cool. It stinks that they weren't able to get him the win for that. But and then Eric, the game after that is, get this, Lance McCullers Jr. versus Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber's 10-9. Like, this is a guy that went to the Rangers. Remember, I think he got cut, or I don't know what happened to him there in Arlington. And then I honestly thought he was done. He's got 128 strikeouts, a 4.44 ERA, and a 1.19 WHIP. And Lance McCullers right now is 3-1, 2.34 ERA, and 1.27 WHIP, 37 strikeouts. And so these are not, even though there's no Verlander, even though there's no Framber Valdez, these are some big matchups. And Chandler Rome mentioned it, that Dusty Baker and the Astros are talking about, after Luis Garcia comes out, more than likely Brown's going to come in and piggyback. That's going to be fun. I can't wait for that game.
Yeah, and definitely. And I think the Astros are looking to win as many games as they can. And the magic number is 1. So with the Mariners losing today, that means the magic number's at 1 for the division to clinch the division, they already clinched the playoffs, but to clinch the division. And I know that they already clinched the playoffs, so to speak, and the Astros didn't even really celebrate. I know that Dusty Baker really just gave a kind of a speech, and they didn't really pop any champagne or anything. But I think once they clinch the division, I think they'll go ahead and do some champagne and do all that stuff. But I think
they're gonna do the locker room celebration. You always do that, but I think really the whole point of that was, it's not like just business as usual, but they know there's more to it than just clinching a playoff spot. It's kind of like the old the real famous Kobe Bryant finals post game where the Lakers are up 2-0, and they ask him why isn't he smiling, and Kobe's like, "What do I have to smile about? We've only won 2 games. We still have 2 more to win. We haven't done anything yet." And that's how the Astros. And although Bregman said, yeah, it's special, and it's not just, oh, ho hum, it's business as usual, but there's a lot more out there for us to get. And so they didn't want to make too much about it, because that's not their goal, getting in the postseason. Their goal is to win another World Series.
Yeah, for sure. So I think this next matchup with the Rays is going to be interesting. We haven't faced them this year. We're going to be on the road at Tropicana Field, but then we're going to be playing the Orioles. The Orioles are a good team. They're not the sucky Orioles we've seen over the past, decade or so. This is actual good team. So the Astros have their work cut out over the next week. And so we'll see what happens, but I'm not worried about them. I think they're going to do great. So any closing thoughts, Brett?
No, I just think that the Astros are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think, Mancini, Vasquez are starting to hit a little bit. I think Pena being in the 2 spot has been a good thing, because you got Bregman and Alvarez hitting around them, and Pena's defense has been really good lately. And so I like what I'm seeing out of this team from top to bottom. I love the bullpen. I love Montero is really coming on. Ryan Stanek is nails. And it's just going to be a fun rest of the season. And the last series of the opening of the regular season against the Phillies, are you kidding me? Bryce Harper, Schwarber coming to town. Like, what a great way to end the season against one of the teams in the National League that's been fighting their whole season, but some great hitters coming into town. Hopefully we can shut them down, but it'll be fun to at least go to batting practice and watch these guys hit some over the railroad tracks in BP, because we know our guys are going to strike them out.
Yes. So somebody asked about the magic number for the number 1 seed. I don't know the exact number. I know that they have a 7.5 lead over the Yankees at the moment.
I believe it's 7 games. Don't quote me, but I
15
believe
games
I saw
left.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
think
it'd be
it's
about
7
half.
games to clinch. Yeah, it's got to be
7 or 8. Yeah.
7, yeah.
So I think it's 8. That's why I was about to say 8,
Okay.
because it has to be like about half or so. So if there's 15 games remaining,
7,
it has to
8.
be,
You know what?
yeah.
We got this. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
it does matter. The Astros got this, and we're not the Dodgers. We're not going to celebrate prematurely before we actually clinch the playoffs like they did. So that's all we got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Welcome back, Brett. And we are going to be covering your Houston Astros all postseason, all the rest of the season, all off season. Make us your first listen every day, and go subscribe to us on YouTube. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, and make sure you check out Sully over the Locked On MLB podcast. He does a great job. He joined Brett the other day, and go ahead and subscribe to him as well on YouTube. And we'll be back tomorrow talking about hopefully another victory against the Rays. And go Astros.